Greetings, I'm Dr. Max Gomez at the Fifth International Vatican Conference, and I am now joined today by Dr. Justin Barrett. Thank you, Justin. Thank you for being with us.
Good to be here.
There's some really interesting stuff here to talk about, but first, let me get sort of a bigger picture here in that, as we all do, we go to many of these scientific conferences, right? And they tend to be fairly narrowly focused. They focus on an organ, the brain, the liver, kidneys, or whatever, or a specific disease. This Vatican conference is really very different. What do you think is the value of having this kind of interdisciplinary, for lack of a better term, kind of conference?
Yeah, well, I think these are a lot of fun because in some ways they sort of force us to step back and look at the big picture kinds of issues and hear from people who maybe approach these topics from a completely different kind of perspective with different kinds of assumptions. So I find it really valuable to hear what the philosophers and theologians are saying about a particular science area, for instance. And I often find it helpful to sort of recheck, okay, am I being conceptually clear and rigorous? Is there something I'm missing here? So I think those are some of the values. And then just, of course, communicating to people from outside of one's guild there's value in that too.
I think I look at it as respectfully challenging people's preconceptions. Is that a fair way to put it?
Oh, I like the way you put that. Yeah, that's right. And I think we need to make ourselves vulnerable to that. I think it's good for us. It's healthy.
Absolutely, absolutely. I learned that a long time ago from actually. So give me some examples, if you would, of what you mean by the quote is, "The scientific explanation for mental phenomena does not mean that we should stop believing in them."
Yeah, well, one of the things that I'm interested in as a cognitive psychologist, when I put that hat on, is, well, where do beliefs come from? How are they formed? Right? What are the processes by which we come to hold that something is true? Well, just because in theory we could come up with a satisfactory explanation for why I hold a particular kind of belief that I do, like maybe that my wife loves me, for instance, it doesn't mean I should suddenly think, oh, okay, so she doesn't love me then, because I've explained it away in some way. That would not only be sort of bad thinking, it'd be disastrous for my marriage. And we can multiply those kinds of examples. Like one of the things that psychologists have done a lot of work in is, why is it and what are the processes by which we come to think that other people have minds, have beliefs themselves? So our belief in beliefs, well, just because we can come up with a satisfying evolutionary explanation or it's sort of ontogenetic kind of explanation, it doesn't follow that we should just dismiss those beliefs. We better do a little more careful thinking on that front. Now, I apply that to religious beliefs all the time. Soul would count for that. Belief in God would count in that regard. Just because we've got a scientific account for why people believe in God doesn't mean they shouldn't. Belief in souls doesn't mean they shouldn't.
And psychology has tended to move very much towards mechanistic explanations of things like belief and behavior and so forth. Is that mutually exclusive to what you're talking about here?
I do have in mind mechanistic types of accounts, but not only mechanistic types of accounts. So yes, it does apply to the mechanistic accounts. Just because we've got a mechanism for a particular kind of belief doesn't mean the belief is false or suspect just because there is one. Well, that would be true of any of our beliefs, including our belief that we have a belief about the mechanisms. So that'll get us into trouble very quickly. Psychology is also has more of these functional or adaptationist types of beliefs, especially with the fusion with evolutionary psychology. So then that's a different kind of explanation. And then some, of course, will appeal to the neurosciences as well and have more of a biological kind of explanation.
Here's a question that I'm afraid doesn't have a quick answer, but maybe you can come up with a quick answer for me. Are humans capable of what we call unlimited love?
Unlimited love. I think one of the things that's exciting about humans is that we seem to be able to continue to broaden our sort of moral sphere. and attribute more and more moral worth to a broader range of people in different places, at different ages, at different organisms. In that sense, with the right kind of encouragement, I don't know if we're going to hit our limits. So we're pretty special in the love category when it comes to other organisms, but we sure need to work at it too, which is kind of a fun dynamic that's worth exploring.
Justin Barrett, thank you. That gives me a lot of hope, actually. And I appreciate that. Thank you for your time today.
You bet. Good to talk to you.